You are now tuned into Flippin' the Birds, a Philly Sports Network podcast.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome all to episode 105 of Flippin' the Birds. I'm Bryan Cameron alongside Morgan Burkett, and we're coming off a win on Sunday.
Yeah. Not often we get to say that.
Yeah, it's not too often. I mean, 3 wins in 8 weeks, not very often. Damn. So the title of the podcast is Eagles win, but are you convinced? And I'm not trying to play Sith Lord, for Eagles fans right now. But let's start with you. I mean, first and foremost, how are you feeling? How was your weekend? What's going on with you?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I mean, anytime the Eagles win, it's a good day. So it was nice to see, them win convincingly as well. I was worried. That's something we even doubted last week. So, the monkey's off their back for another week, but I know we're gonna get into it. There's I'll take the win, but there's still a lot to talk about.
I feel like there's so little to take from this win. They listen, and we talked this about a couple weeks ago. We're saying that that the Eagles have to treat Jalen Hurts as if he is the weakness on this offense. They got to limit what he's doing and focus on the playmakers. They focus on the run game against a very, very poor defense, a very, very poor team. And it's weird because, like, can you really evaluate them after this win? Like, you're talking about, it's the varsity team beating the freshman team. Like, to me, it wasn't a real, I don't know. It wasn't enough for me. Like, I get it. Like, we have 47 rush attempts. Great. But to me, that exposed your quarterback more than anything. You expose the fact that Jalen Hurts you had to limit him for a reason because of what's been happening in the past few games.
Right.
You finally ran the ball, but you ran the ball without your feature back. And they barely ran with Kenny Gainwell until like the fourth quarter as well, which blew my mind because Boston Scott was the first running back on the field.
Yeah, I mean, I think Boston Scott, for all his limitations, he does what this offense needs him to do. And I think that's why they put him in, is they don't have to change much. He loves those inside zones. Will cut it up outside. Similar to Miles Sanders in that regard. I think Kenny Gainwell is still coming along with his reads. Obviously, we've seen him be pretty successful. I think they just, wanted to pound the rock, and Boston Scott's got more experience doing so. And Jordan Howard, obviously, has got more experience doing so. So
I don't know. It threw me off to see Scott get more carries than Kenny at the end of the day. And then Jordan Howard, finally got to see Jordan Howard on the team, still trucking along, doing well. The wide receivers, only 3 receptions between all of them. I mean, it was technically only Quez and Devontae Smith out there. Devontae Smith, your first round pick, only with 1 reception for 15 yards. Dallas got it though. 72 yards, 6 receptions. I mean, that's back-to-back weeks with over 70 yards of receiving. I mean, it's great to see him finally being featured with no Zach Ertz, with, as limited as the offense has been for the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, you make a great point. I think he's been pretty stellar he's been stellar for a while, but I think he's proven the Eagles right that, he can be that guy they think he is, and quarterback depending and offensive coach depending. But I feel like that's what this game was. It was like there's little glimpses of like kind of good things we wanted to see happen, but like, am I feeling like this is a turning point or anything like that? I'm not really certain. I don't know how you feel. I know that
I think I'm at the same point.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like we're at a stop sign in the middle of the road, and that's all it is. Like, there's nobody around. I mean, it was a win. Like, you had to play on Sunday, and apparently you were the better team on Sunday. That's all it was.
Yeah.
I mean, the defense, though, again, against poor offense, but still the defense, the aggressiveness they showed, the linebackers, there was definitely a switch up in who got the most snaps. I mean, TJ Edwards seemed to be leading the linebackers for majority of the time. They actually went to a lot of dime packages as well, which caught a lot of people's eyes.
I think like they finally realized that to win games and to play good defense, they have to stop the run. They threw a lot at the run to stop, what is a pretty good pair of running backs. And just did their best to limit that, and then the rest kind of fell in place. And like, again, as much as we're talking about, are you convinced going forward? Like, I don't see why we weren't seeing this already in the past. Like, I think we would have had a much different opinion if we played like this already and then saw this game. But I don't it almost seems like, okay, we ran the ball really well this game, so that means for certain they're not going to run the ball next game. And like, okay, the linebackers play good this game, that means it's going to be a really bad game next week for the linebackers. Like, that's kind of that's the season it seems we're having. But it was nice to see that the schemes kind of sharpen up a bit and play what they're supposed to play and do what they're supposed to do.
I guess it was nice to see them actually play competent football. But my issue is, what the hell took so long? Why did it take you 8 weeks? Or let's say it took you 7 weeks to game plan this way. We went from in Dallas, and it was apparently a shootout that needed to happen.
Right.
Why is it Chris telling me to turn my sound? Why?
No, mine. My phone went off. I know, Chris, that he
keeps throwing me off. I see.
Yeah, Chris gets 100 messages, during these podcasts from all different kinds of people. His Twitter's always blowing up. I get one message.
Shout out to Chris who had the most boxing matches that a boxer could have in one day.
Taking on all challengers.
Shit, what was I saying? Oh yeah, why did it take you 7 weeks to game plan against a team like this when you had poor run defenses that you went up against? When you, for some reason, went into Dallas and thought about having a shootout, opposed to running the ball and controlling the time possession? Why was the defense not aggressive against the Bucs? Like, what are we missing here that took so long for you to actually play competent football? Like, it's still mind-boggling to me. And then let's move away from the Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie meddling. Let's move away from that. Like, as a coach, what the hell took you so long to get here? It doesn't make sense.
There is something I noticed on the offense, and there's kind of 2 points I want to make. And again, it's still the Lions. We're not making mountains out of molehills here, but this offense is entirely predicated on whether or not that run option works, that RPO works, and you're playing against a Lions defense who's really undisciplined. I don't really think it proves anything, but you kind of see at least the direction this offense is trying to go. And when they can start getting those defensive ends to guess and the linebackers to kind of second guess themselves, like it makes a world of difference. And the one thing I will say positive is the fact that Jalen Hurts was running the ball so often. And we talked about too, just clearly not seeing times he was supposed to hand the ball off. Teams are starting to focus on that. We saw the Bucs, do that thing where they send the end down and then have essentially a spy over top with the linebacker. Yeah. If you want to dedicate 2 players to cover Jalen Hurts running the football, then once we hand the ball off, it should work fine. And for some reason, against the Lions, against Atlanta, he's willing to hand the ball off. So I think if we can just get that going, the amount of times he's run already this season will get people to start second guessing. So if we can just stick to that, it's working. It looks good. It looks what it's supposed to be doing. And I was talking about, making adjustments, right? Well, now you're starting to see the adjustments being made, and they're telling them, okay, hand the ball off. Again, 7 weeks is way too long for that to happen, but it's some progression. It's something to build off of. And then see
why 7 weeks? Why did it take them 7 weeks? Like, and then there's somebody in the chat saying, let's look at this really quick. Donnie 6765, bro, it's literally a whole new coaching staff. WTF? You think you're gonna be good by week 4? It's not about that, but it's about why did it take so long for the Eagles to play competent football?
Right.
We saw them come out in Atlanta. They played smart football. It was great. Everything was very well scripted. Everything was well put together. Ever since then, they've blown that out of proportion. Like, we're seeing heavy pass. We're seeing lack of runs. We're seeing this player get too many targets. We're seeing this player not get enough targets. And it's weird. Like, the penalties. It's just so bad. Like, that's the whole point you have an offseason. They actually had a full offseason with this new coaching staff. A full offseason to prepare. And they went into week 1 very well prepared. But it seems like every week after that, they're just not prepared. Then you have Nick Sirianni admitting that he didn't see the tape for the Raiders game.
Right.
Like, what took so long to get to this point where it's like, hey, I have a job to do. Let me do my job the right way.
Mm-hmm. I think, like, for me, it just comes down to adjustments. You see it in games too, where, you know, they come out in the second half, like similar to the Cowboys game. They thought they were going to be able to pass on that defense, and, you know, turns out Trayvon Diggs is actually pretty good. You know, lets a lot of yards up, but makes plays as well. And there was just no adjustment at halftime. You know, and a lot of these games have been, you know, even against the Raiders, you know, a close game and then comes out with an onside kick. Like, the whole, like, I don't really understand the thought process, but like the progression of, like, okay, these are close games. If we, you know, play it like it's a close game, and yeah, you know, and that's what really like we're looking for is adjustments. And I see another good comment is, like, they are young coaches, right? You know, we're not gonna neither me nor Bryan are on the you know, get Sirianni out right away train, but it's disappointing that it's taken this long to see what, you know, fans are yelling at you in the stadiums. You know, run the ball is echoing through the stadium, and they're still not running the ball.
But it's the fundamentals of football. Like, again, I'm not against Sirianni, and I've said this from the get. I'm not against it. I'm not for firing this guy. I'm not for, you know, this, that, and third. My thing at hand is right now is you have all the tools you need to succeed. All of us have that in our work fields. We're given the tools that we're needed to succeed. We all know what we need to do at hand. We all know the task that we need to accomplish at hand. We all do that to the best of our ability. I personally feel like Sirianni and the coaching staff have been doing the opposite to the worst of their ability. They've been shooting themselves in the foot too many times after they did it so well in week 1. Like, that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, how do you start here, but you literally have been here until last week?
Right.
And again, 2 bad teams that they beat.
Yeah, I mean, you know, to Sirianni's credit, I do like his scheme. Like, I think there's a lot of good plays in there. There's a lot of cool design. I don't understand the lack of pre-snap motion, but, you know, even still, starting to see that coming along a bit. Not great, but, you know, it's progressing. But I think it's a lot of play calling that's an issue, which you can fix and will progress. Obviously, if you have a good scheme, there are good plays in there. You know, you just got to call the right ones. But yeah, the whole thing, and I've been talking about for a while too, that you know, you got to get a first down on every play. Like, it seems like the whole scheme is predicated on 10 yards, and like Lions, finally we saw a difference. You know, take this short runs. Yeah, and so, like, I don't know. Again, he's talking about it in week 1. We saw that against Atlanta, and then nothing for a while. And so I don't know if this is like change, but it's a step in the right direction. And again, this is something we were talking about for a while too, that, like, this game can't be close, and it wasn't. Like, you know, even Baldy, I think, said that the Eagles might hand the Lions a win, and, you know,
I think we were all expecting it. I mean, I said it on the podcast last week where the number 1 overall pick was right there. But again, like, you know, I hope this is a step in the right direction. Somebody even said in the chat, where is it? Here we go. So this is from Ben. Shout out to Ben, who's always always here in the chat. This was all a ploy for the Chargers to think we'll run the ball next week. Next week, 6 carries total, only deep balls. So it's kind of like, okay, like, you know, this is obviously, I mean, this is actually something you can possibly expect to happen, because this is how hot and cold this offense and even defense has been. There's no consistency for some weird reason. The only consistency that they have is their inconsistency to be consistent, which is wild. But if they can actually go back to the link against the Chargers, who have 2 losses in a row, and actually run the ball like they did. Run the ball, run play action, couple RPOs here and there. They even had a pistol formation at one point, and we've barely seen that in Philly for the past couple of years, unless it was the Philly special. So mixing it up like that is going to be the bread and butter. I did mention that I feel like it kind of exposed Jalen Hurts, because we talked about this before the podcast. Even though he was limited on his attempts, he still showed that he's still very paranoid in the pocket. He gets rattled easily, and he's very he can easily be deceived right now.
Yeah, it's still an issue. There's still sometimes he just doesn't trust his internal clock, or maybe you just set it too fast where you just like hitting 2.5 seconds and getting out of there. The thing that I'd really like to see is him escape up into the left. There's a few times he'll escape up into the right, and there's a few times he'll roll right, but coming left is a bit weird for him. And I don't know, like, if that's, again, just like, I don't know. I think that just indicates like not trusting the back end. And I do get that with, a rotation at offensive line, but it's really that if he can just put those two things together, because the problem is now is defensive ends are just, coming around, they're waiting for him to roll out, and then it's a race to the sideline. And if he can just step up, especially to the left, just to keep those, defensive ends honest and having to cut back and not take such a wide angle, it could be huge. But the clock has to, he just has to sit in the pocket.
Yeah, the game has to slow down for him, and if for some weird reason it's not slowing down right now. And we do have kind of a question in the chat right now from Mike Nemia. All 22 showed the scheme was getting players open, which we've seen that in the past couple of weeks. Devontae Smith has been wide open plenty of times, as well as Quez. Hurts was not throwing the ball. The scheme has been simplified for Hurts. If QB doesn't throw, does that blame still go on Siri? Run game can help though. So I think I may have asked you this last week, where it's kind of, or even in the podcast with Bree and oh wow, did I just forget who else was on the podcast?
We had so many guests last week.
Well, yeah. So I'm asking Bree if the RPO is the responsibility of the quarterback, because the coach is not in the year the quarterback at that very moment. Mm-hmm. So how much of the lack of offense thereof is to blame on Siri and Hurts?
Yeah. Like, again, I know that you have some opinions on this too, and especially last week. This is what we talked about a lot, and just where the blame should fall. Obviously, it's going to be on both. Just that's the way it goes, especially with young quarterbacks, young coaches. They're both missing some stuff, but like I think my opinion is a decent scheme. The play callings can be strange sometimes, and then just on that, like the whole thing I'm talking about, where it's like, okay, like you're predicated on getting a first down every time. Mm-hmm. Now that, on the field looks like you're trying to get chunk yards every play, but just going back to like Jalen Hurts training, that also means like you have to be looking at the big play, right? And a big problem that I've had with him is just like early taking the check down, like before you even rolling out, before you even get to that timer in your head. We had a lot of just easy completions, and he's not taking those 3 to 5 yards. And I think that's just the way this offense is being coached. It's being coached as something that like gets chunk yards. And then, and then we see the same thing with him keeping the ball. You're not taking the 3-yard runs. You're going out. And I just feel like you have like it goes hand in hand. Is not only what the offense is, but how you're coaching it. And I just feel like for him, it's being coached on like, we need to find this big play. Otherwise, we're not going to compete. And then that goes back even further to like talking about how it's going to be a shootout against Dallas, like, so just all these things are kind of like snowballing. And I think they just need to simplify it and just bring it back down and be like, hey man, march the ball down the field. Cause he's good at that. He can march the ball.
So you do you think it's one of those things where they're just trying to do too much with the little time that they feel like they have with Jalen Hurts?
Maybe.
Because Howie Roseman specified, hey, we're really evaluating Jalen Hurts, and it has not been a secret that they're interested in Deshaun Watson.
Right.
They're interested in Russell Wilson.
Right.
And people are even drafting a Matt Corral or a Malik Willis to the Eagles. But it kind of feels like, everybody's in the room like, hey, we got to make this work. Let's make this work. Let's make this work. Let's make something happen. And it's just like, it's a clusterfuck.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and again, this is something we brought up for a while. Is like, what is the narrative of this team? Because it seemed like it wasn't going to be a rebuild, and that's kind of what we're seeing. And if this is a rebuild, if this is a rebuild, then we got some young pieces, but you can't treat it like this is going to be an easy season.
I feel like they should have just taken their time with it and just like what they did, like we said, just let the offense flow. You're not expected to win this season. You're not expected to do much, honestly. Just play your games, play your game, and if you end up winning, you end up winning. If you don't, then hey, you're sticking to something that you stand by. You get me? Like you're sticking to your scheme, you're sticking to your strength.
Yeah. I think Yeah, I don't know. I think the simplifying is good. I think it's going to help to some extent, but I don't know that it's going to stay this way. And again, we keep coming back to this problem. Like this is one game, and I just can't trust they're going to stick to this. And going into the Chargers game, which I know we're going to talk about later, kind of, before this week, obviously it's still the Lions. Kind of two teams trying to find themselves after having some rough weeks. I know the Chargers really got beat up with the Ravens, but it's really a game of like doing what you do best. That's what they both need to get back to. And I don't know what the Eagles do best. Like that's a weird thing to say, but like I don't know. They should be good at running the ball. They don't do that except for against the Lions. Yeah. What is it that the Eagles, do best? Because that's what we got to see in this game, I think.
I completely agree with that. And just really quick, if you're tuning into this podcast, we appreciate you. We thank you guys. Be sure to click on the link below in the what's it called? The share description. And click on the tick pick link where you actually get same seats for better prices and without the extra fee, so you can see all your Eagles games this season. Definitely click on that link, and yeah. But so you were saying, what was the last thing you said?
Just like what do the Eagles do best? I think like that's like if we're gonna see progress, we need to see that, and especially in this game, you're trying to kind of find yourself coming off a kind of a meaningless but meaningful win at the same time. So what do you do best, and what are you gonna do against the Chargers?
So weird connection, because Ben in the chat says we fertilize the best,
right?
Which you can actually take in theory as to what they did on Sunday. You ran the ball. You oh God, I'm not going to go this way. You fertilized the soil and showed everybody in the NFL what you can do best. They can run the ball. Jordan Howard, I don't know why he's not on the roster, the 53-man roster just yet. But Jordan Howard, Boston Scott, Kenny Gainwell, Miles Sanders is back in probably like 2 weeks or so. Run the ball. Right. Give Jalen Hurts the short avenue of the quick passes, the short passes. Rely on Dallas Goedert. My issue right now is, dude, they invested a first-round pick in Devontae Smith and Jalen Reagor. We've seen the flashes of Devontae Smith.
Right.
Jalen Reagor, we haven't seen nothing. We
saw
a
few big PIs.
Yeah.
Big defensive PIs. He's fast.
But what are they doing to get these guys involved? Like, I know they did the runarounds with Reagor. But one reception for your number one overall pick makes no sense to me whatsoever.
And to be fair, watching the film, there are a lot of times he is wide open or he's schemed open, and Jalen Hurts
he's a phenomenal route runner, bro.
Absolutely.
I love the way the kid runs routes, but why? Like, what's not clicking for the Eagles that they're not? I'm glad they got Dallas Goedert involved because that to me is an essential piece of this offense. Nobody could stop Goddard, in my opinion. Like the guy he feels like baby Gronk. Like can't bring him down. He's gonna get the yak. I'm glad they ran the ball. You got Jordan Howard involved. I'm glad he was playing his game. Now you got to do it with Miles Sanders. Right. But what's the game plan or what's the objective for the wide receivers? We know Quez Watkins is a burner, but he was barely targeted. We know Devontae Smith is a great route runner, but Jalen Hurts can never see him. Right. And that's literally that's their wide receiving core. No, I know Greg Ward is over there, somewhere around there. He's definitely somewhere amping up somebody.
Yeah,
but that's all we're receiving. Like we're not seeing anything from these wide receivers. It's the weirdest thing in the world.
I mean, Greg Ward again, watching the film back, is open quite a few times, and they're
everybody's open quite a few times in his damn offense.
Yeah, exactly. But I think one of the things is we do need to see that leap a bit from Jalen Reagor. Devontae Smith is going to get a lot of attention if he's the only guy. And again, I love Quez Watkins. It was fantastic that he's coming along, but he's not going to be a number one wide receiver in the NFL. Not yet, at least. He's not that guy, right? He's a couple big plays a game kind of guy in our offense, and he might break out and have like that 1 or 2 games where he's fantastic. But for now, he's not the complement to a number one wide receiver in the NFL yet. So I think there needs to be that kind of step. And so getting Dallas Goedert involved, even though it's not really the same. It helps, right? Anything helps. Yeah. But I think it's just that one, he's not being seen, and then 2, when he isn't, he is getting some pretty decent coverage and a lot of help from the defense. So, yeah, I don't understand how you can't find ways to get him the ball, but I think that Sirianni is trying to do that. There are a lot of times he is open.
Okay, so in 5 minutes we'll be joined by Gavino Borquez of the Chargers Wire to talk about Eagles versus Chargers. But really quick before we get there, what do you need to see this week, win or lose? What do you need to see on the field that convinces you, like, hey, okay, second week in a row we're doing this, cool,
right?
We're moving in the right direction.
I mean, it's what we've been talking about. Just some consistency. I feel like offense. I know we mostly talk about the offense. It's just more fun to talk about sometimes, especially when you have put up 40 points, right? So, but yeah, so offense, just keep running the football, stick to that, right? If the RPOs and the run options are going to work, you have to run the football and you have to give it to your running backs. So that's what's going to open it up for you. Stick with that. Obviously, what you said, I'd love to see Devontae Smith more involved, but at the end of the day, you just got to stick with Dallas Goedert. You can't go away from him. The Eagles are much better when he gets the football.
Is this because he's on your fantasy team?
That doesn't hurt either.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I was gonna leave that out of it, but
okay.
Yeah, I'm all for it. At least throw some touchdowns, some red zone touches. Like, I'm fine with that.
By the way, why does my IR look like the Eagles IR right now in both of my fantasy leagues?
Yeah, I mean, we just all have those seasons, man.
I
wish there was a way to comfort you, but
Derrick Henry, Miles Sanders, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, David Montgomery.
I lost Kareem Hunt, if it makes you feel any better, but
he was always RB2 though.
Yeah. Yeah, but okay, so real quick on the defensive side of the ball, this is a team that kind of predicate, like it's pass based, right? But I just don't know that these linebackers can do a good job again. Like, that's what's going to be the thing is I think if you're going to run a lot of zone like they do, you need your linebackers to be good in coverage. That just that's the way it works. And I don't know. So
are you surprised that we stood pat? Really quick, are you surprised that we stood put? Trade deadline came and went. We only got Kerry Vincent Jr. from the Broncos. No linebacker help.
And I just think that Howie doesn't know what this team is either. And honestly, I don't blame him. And so it's like, why waste picks? I
kind of wanted Odell, but it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been nice. Who knows? But yeah. So
you're saying the defense?
Yeah. So the defense, we shut down like number one receivers and number two receivers pretty well. But it always seems to be like that one extra guy that
that always shows up somehow, some way.
Yeah. All right. Enough of me. What do you think you need to see? I know that you are really concerned about Jalen Hurts after that last game. So
I really am, because I feel like, listen, like you showed what your offense can be like if they had an average quarterback, which is what Jalen Hurts is right now. And I'm not hating on Jalen Hurts, because before the season I was all in on Jalen Hurts, but as time has revealed, like there's a lot of flaws in Jalen Hurts' game. And don't tell me he's a rookie, because he's not Ben Simmons. Like, this guy is second year pro. Like, it's a second year pro, like sophomore season. He still has a lot of flaws in his game. So I want to see him step in the right direction. Because at this point, you're not doing anything that's helping yourself.
Right.
Sirianni is doing everything he can to help himself. He did that. He ran the ball. He focused on Goddard. He did everything he needs to do to help himself. What is Jalen going to do to help Jalen? Are you going to continue to act so paranoid in the pocket? Or are you going to continue to let defenses fool you with the edge breaking and you falling for the trap? I need to know that Jalen Hurts is more than capable of just being a game manager.
Right.
Which I know we said that for this team to be successful, that's what he would need to be. But listen, we're 8 weeks in, halfway mark. You got Matt Corral, who just got injured, probably possibly going to fall, and a little bit back. The Eagles could draft him. You got Russell Wilson, the apple of Howie's eye, who's definitely going to be available.
Yep.
And I don't know. Like, I thought to myself, like, people are saying you can't evaluate Jalen Hurts. I'm at the point where I'm saying you can't evaluate Nick Sirianni.
Right. That's a good point.
Because he came here with the expectation that he was coaching Carson Wentz. I'm 1,000% convinced on that. He ended up with Jalen Hurts, who's not Carson Wentz. They're not the same style quarterbacks. Um, it's a weird place to be, but listen, if you're gonna kind of protect the kid, I want to see the run game. I want to see Dallas Goedert continue to get the ball, and I do want to see what the game plan is for Devontae Smith and Quez Watkins and company.
Mm-hmm.
Defense, I'm curious about what's going on with the linebackers because TJ Edwards seems to be the focal point at the last game, and Davian Taylor has been the focal point for the past couple of weeks, which is a little odd. But Alex Singleton is getting singled out, no pun intended. You have Eric Wilson, who's not getting the snap at all, and it's just a weird place to be.
Yeah.
So I feel like this team's going to progress, and we got to see the little things going forward.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. I think that just those backers, like the problem is they keep bringing on these people that I just feel like it's another evaluation, right? Like it just feels like it's make or break every single, like linebackers. Like again, Davion Taylor's getting his shot, but they might go linebacker again. Probably not first round just because it's Howie, but it just seems like every position, maybe outside of the corners, depending on whether or not Darius Slay stays here, is kind of like a big question mark, whether or not they're going to look anything the same next year or not. And it would be nice to just see this game like, okay, that position group is good and they should stay, and that's the way it should be. Offensive line excluded, but I think even there's going to be a lot of changes. So yeah, it'd be nice to just, I hope it's the wide receivers. That'd be great. These young wide receivers can get it done. But yeah, the linebackers is, I don't know. Like, are those the guys then? Like, is TJ Edwards the guy? Is he sticking around for a while? I don't know.
Way too many questions. There's way too many questions surrounding this offense and defense. But speaking of questions, we got questions about Eagles versus Chargers, and we're joined by Gavino Borquez of the Chargers Wire. What's going on, brother? How you feeling?
What's up, man? How are you?
Good.
Thanks for having me.
Oh,
thanks for coming.
Appreciate you for coming on. So you guys are coming off 2 losses. But you're not in the same bracket that we are in, where, it's a bad team and everybody knows it's a bad team. We're big fans of what Justin Herbert did last season and what he's been doing this season. But 2 back-to-back losses is a little concerning right now. I mean, how's everything over there?
Yeah, I mean, given the last 2 games, it's concerning for sure. You're starting to question if the team is just like any other Chargers team in the past few years. But quite frankly, I think that Staley has that team under more control, given Anthony Lynn's game management issues that he struggled with. So those are completely different. Now it's more so like an offensive standpoint as of late. And then, of course, there's some issues on the defensive side of the ball. But game management issues, which we saw from the Chargers in recent seasons, which caused to close losses, that's completely gone. But now we're starting to draw some questions on both sides of the ball.
So when you say that's completely gone, are you talking about Shane Steichen?
No. More so special teams, more so all those like close losses because of just terrible game management. Anthony Lynn struggled at that. Brandon Staley has that under control. Brandon Staley is more aggressive on 4th down situations as opposed to more of a conservative route that Anthony Lynn and company would take. So the last 2 losses, again, against some good teams in the Patriots and the Ravens, but this just comes down to issues on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball that are easily fixable, but they just need to get that under control before we get into the rest of the season if they want to make the playoffs.
Last couple of games, obviously Justin Herbert having a great start to the season, and then showed a few of the chinks in the armor and, made some mistakes. He's missing some more throws. Obviously you talked about limiting mistakes on both sides of the football, but what do you think is the key for him to bounce back? And then what do you think will be the key to beating the Eagles this week?
I think aside from Herbert, if we're just talking strictly on the offensive side of the ball, it's early down efficiency. That's been an issue. In the Ravens game, it was Joe Lombardi running the ball more so than not on first and second downs. Drops have been a factor for sure too, but Herbert's been having issues with post snap reads, which is something that he struggled with in Oregon. So that's something that's come up. The last time that we saw that was last year when they played the Patriots when they lost 45-0. We hadn't seen that in a while. And again, now questions are starting to come up. Is Joe Lombardi holding Justin Herbert back? Because again, he like as far as like his average per throws, it's a little over 7. Justin Herbert, he needs to be able to like throw the ball. Like that's what he's good at, is throwing the ball down the field, which they haven't been. It's been a lot of underneath throws. It's just been, throws to the flat, just stuff that Justin Herbert, when he was drafted, a lot of people were questioning, putting a playbook that's going to like tailor to his strengths. And they just haven't been taking those shots down the field. Of course, the defense that they've played in the Patriots and the Ravens, they're great. They're ran by 2 great defensive coordinators. So that's a factor, of course, too. But I mean, within the past 2 games, we've seen these limiting factors that need to be addressed. So from like a play calling standpoint to more so just the players in general with the drops, the blocking on the right side of the line, that's been an issue too, which has caused Herbert to be under duress. They're playing without Brian Bulaga and Ode Ibushi. And again, the Patriots and Ravens have exposed those areas. So there's just a lot that needs to be fixed quickly if they want to make this playoff run. Because again, when we were 4 weeks into the season, 5 weeks into the season, everyone was considering, the Chargers to be like a serious contender. And now they're getting the label of more of a pretender as of late. So if they want to completely diminish that, they need to fix that. And that's the offensive side of the ball. They have some issues on the defensive side of the ball, which we'll get into.
Sure.
So speaking of pretender, during the offseason, Eagles hired Nick Sirianni, and he brought along a good buddy of his, which you're very familiar with, in Shane Steichen. Eagles fans were warned by Chargers fans that Shane was, limiting Justin Herbert's growth. And now we're in a situation where our own QB has no identity of his own. Is this something, I don't know if you've seen any Eagles games this year, but is there any similarities in both the way Herbert and Hurts is being treated by Steichen?
So I haven't watched any Eagles game in specific. That's something that I was going to get into later on tonight and tomorrow as well. So I don't know how they're running the offense. What are some issues that you guys have come across with this offense?
There's a lot of missed reads. There's a kind of, he's having an issue with his internal clock, really getting out of the pocket early. Different quarterbacks, obviously. Jalen Hurts is much more, run option, read option kind of quarterback. So that makes a lot of sense. His ticker's kind of going off early, but especially over the middle, just not seeing windows. And then not necessarily with the play calling per se, but just some interesting choices for pass, combos. We're seeing a lot of screens, even after it's kind of too late for screens in the game, and definitely too often. Seeing a lot of strange combinations with, rolling out certain ways and not others, and not staying in the pocket. So just kind of confusing situation. And then just we're having issues with the progression, not really a difference between week 1 and week 7. So I'm sure Brian can kind of elaborate on that as well, but that's kind of what I'm seeing.
Yeah, it's a lot of heavy screens, and it's weird because I don't think that you guys had this issue where it was a lack of running plays. The run game has been non-existent since until last week, where they ran for 46 or 47 times. Before that, it's been the running backs running 3 times, 4 times, 1 time. So I'm just trying to find the similarities to see if it's actually if this is actually a Nick Sirianni thing, or if it's actually a Steichen thing, where Chargers fans were kind of happy to see him go.
Yeah, it can be a combination of both, because you got to think that Anthony Lynn was a head coach too. And with Anthony Lynn's background, he was a running backs coach. So he had a lot of say in terms of that. They're going to be running the ball. So with Sirianni and Steichen kind of being 2 offensive minded coaches, I feel like there's kind of a mold of those 2 coming together. Same thing with Steichen and Lynn, because you were always trying to figure out who to point fingers at. Lynn wanted to establish the run. And then with Steichen, he was trying to develop an offense in like a quick matter, because you got to think that Herbert, we didn't know that he was going to play. So he had to get caught up quick. And then they had to like tailor the offense for him because they thought Tyrod was going to be the guy all along. So they were taking elements of what worked at Oregon, the heavy play action, the moving the pockets, because they're working with the terrible offensive line. So you got to factor that in there too. So like the screen game, that was pretty common too. Eckler had his own when it came to that aspect. Again, they used Mike Williams in the way that he had been used since he was drafted as like a deep ball 50-50 guy.
Right.
That's completely different with Joe Lombardi's scheme now or system, because he's being used as that Michael Thomas X receiver. So just when you think about it, it's got to be something going on with those two coaches, because it kind of reminds me of what the Chargers had going on with Lynn and his philosophy, and then with what Steichen wanted to do.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And we talked about Jalen Hurts. Something that we're seeing as well is, DeVonta Smith, fantastic receivers, proven to be fantastic receiver, and just not getting as involved as we like to see him. Quez Watkins is coming along, kind of a surprise this year also. Kind of a roller coaster of production. And then Jalen Reagor, just, we don't really have to get into that, just kind of disappointing. But I think that there is hope. And I was wondering with you as well, dealing with this new coaching staff and having some success, what was it that really stood out to you when the Chargers were playing well that you like this year as opposed to last year? And what do you see out of this new coaching staff that's really been, successful and promising?
I think we're starting to see some holes, because I specifically highlight the right side of the line. That's becoming an issue, and they're getting extra protection from running backs and tight ends, but nothing is stopping this additional pressure that they're getting, because again, I mentioned you play the Ravens and Patriots back to back. You have some of the two best defensive minded coaches going at you. Lombardi just didn't come prepared whatsoever. He didn't match these. And again, when you look at the games before that, the Browns, the Chiefs, the Raiders, the Cowboys, and the Redskins. So okay defenses, but nothing like the Patriots and the Ravens here. But Lombardi, with his play calling, he has not seemed like he's adjusted. And that's why it's concerning, because again, the offensive line depth had been a concern coming into the season. They're keeping Storm Norton at right tackle, Michael Schofield at right guard. They didn't make any changes, any trades, and they've been trying to get by with what they have at tight end. And, the running backs just aren't getting the job done in pass pro. It has Herbert running for his life, because they've tried the moving pockets, just everything, but nothing seems to be slowing down the pressure. And again, if you get pressure on Justin Herbert, sure, he can make some of the throws on the run, but it's not going to work every single time. And this just falls solely on Joe Lombardi. How are you going to adjust? And the past two games, he hasn't been able to. And again, with the Eagles, I haven't been able to watch them this season. I don't know specifically how their defense is playing. I don't think it's as top notch as these past two opponents. But again, they're going to see what worked well. They're going to disguise some coverages. They're going to do something to try to affect Justin Herbert. If Lombardi doesn't change his game plan, that's, there's a good chance that the Eagles may have success on Sunday.
So the one thing that Eagles have done pretty well this season has been getting at times has been getting pressure at the quarterback. I mean, we do have a pretty good defensive line when it comes to Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, Josh Sweat, and that right side. I mean, you have Josh Sweat who's coming along, and you have Fletcher Cox who's been mostly lined up next to him. So speaking on that, I mean, what are your keys to the Chargers pulling off? I don't want to say upset, but pulling off the win on Sunday and in Philly?
Again, just fix all the mistakes that they've been doing wrong these past two games. So when you look at the offense, they have to find a way to protect Justin Herbert. Lombardi needs to do a better job of getting his guys open, because again, or allow Herbert more time to throw and to just push the ball down the field, because again, with these underneath throws, it can only do so much. And their issue is just the early down efficiency. When you get behind the sticks and you're doing third and fourth down plays, it's not going to work early on in the season. Right. Again, we saw that Staley was aggressive on fourth down. That became a storyline in its own, was he's been effective on fourth downs. But again, that's because they got in those situations. They can't get stuck in third and fourth down situations. And the past two games, they finally have realized that they can't afford to. So being more aggressive is one. And then on the other side of the ball, it's stopping the run and then they're realizing that when opponents are running the ball, it's shortening the field. And it doesn't matter what the offense is. Like you have Mac Jones with the short field, he's going to have success. And the Chargers are known for stopping the pass. But again, you can only get away with it for so long. So that's why with someone with like a running quarterback like Jalen Hurts, again, he can do damage just with his legs alone. And then on special teams too, it's the same thing. When you have returners that are going for 20 yards on punt returns, like you can't let that, be a thing because it's only going to hurt the defense, only going to put them in unfavorable field positions. So again, there's something at each level of the in each phase of the game that they need to do in order to like have success. But the one on offense, because their offense has been seems like it's stalled a little bit, is just being more aggressive, finding a way to put Herbert in position to do what he does best by distributing the ball. And again, Herbert just needs to be better because again, he has not been doing that well with disguised coverages, and it showed the past 2 weeks.
Now we had someone on when the Eagles were playing the Raiders. Marcus, he's obviously watched more of the Chargers than we have, and I'm sorry for bringing up a Raiders fan on this podcast, but something that he thought, and we asked him, we had to play the AFC West as well. Asked for some opinions on the AFC West. Now, before I ask you your opinions on how this kind of shakes down, and obviously, probably see more Chiefs than we have as well. He was saying that one of the things he saw with the Chargers offense is that it's definitely predicated on the pass. They do run the football, but it's not really what this offense is supposed to do. If it happens, great. And obviously they have more success when they are running the football, but really predicated on the pass. And then, saw some similar to what you're talking about, maybe just a bit of stale scheme or stale play calling, trying to do the same things over and over again. So what do you think is the next step for this offense? And is it getting that run game going, or is it, maybe, some different route combinations? What do you see is needed to get this offense back on track?
Yeah. So their goal, like any other offensive minded coach, they talk about establishing balance, and believe it or not, like in the past 2 weeks, the run game has actually been doing well. Justin Jackson had a 75-yard run this past game. Austin Eckler's been running the ball well. And a lot of that goes to the new look offensive line, in particular from Corey Linsley to Matt Filer to Rashawn Slater, because the right side is just weakened altogether. But again, it comes down to finding a way to just give Herbert just a little bit more time, because it became an issue in the past 2 weeks, and they know, like, again, they don't have the depth along the offensive line, but they still won't make any changes. They don't want to move Matt Filer from left guard to right tackle and then put in rookie Brendan Hymus into left guard, which again, I've been talking about doing. If like this combination isn't going to work out, you're only going to dig yourself into a hole. And when your tight ends and running backs aren't even getting the job done in pass pro, that's an issue in its own. So again, I think it's getting Herbert more on the move. It's him, like I mentioned, being able to read the field better. He seems hurried because he's been under a lot of duress. So again, getting him going on the move. We need someone to step up as that down the field specialist. We have Jalen Guyton, who has speed. Last year we had Tyron Johnson, and you might have remembered him here and there. He'd have those big plays down the field. And then we have rookie Josh Palmer, who again, he had his first NFL touchdown, but he kind of showed some glimpses of a guy who can do some work down the field. So it's utilizing these guys in a way that they haven't been used, because again, they're trying to get a majority of their production underneath, and they feel like moving the ball that way is going to work, and it hasn't. And again, when you have a quarterback like Justin Herbert, yes, he's done a lot of things really well. You're going to want to work to his strengths, and that means pushing the ball more down the field, which they haven't been able to, partly because they haven't had time to, and they've also struggled with drops too. So it's more of a discipline thing from the receiver standpoint, because Keenan Allen, I think he has 6 drops, and it's up there. Like, it's up there among the most receivers. And a guy like with Keenan Allen, that's kind of unacceptable. He's a guy that gets separation. He's been able to do that. But when it comes to like catching just the balls that are thrown directly to him, and he hasn't been able to, all right, we have an issue. So there's little things with this offense that's just not clicking in the past 2 weeks. And I kind of have this fear that it's going to continue to hurt them, even against like opponents like the Eagles, where it should be gimmies, or they were viewed as gimmies going into the season when they're winning all these games. So even like what should be easy wins for the Chargers aren't going to be the case unless they clean some of that stuff up. And there's like a lot that they need to work on.
We love to hear that, to be honest, because, you know, we can't really beat good teams. So we love to hear that.
I'm telling you, I kind of like, I don't have the same feeling like the same old Chargers like last year, where it's like, okay, we're going to have this big lead. Like, what's going to be the reason why we lose it? Now it's just like, oh, we can compete, but it's just like, and we can stay within our opponents, but it's just these little like ticky-tacky things that can be like fixed that just seem like they haven't been. And again, like I said, the Chargers have played 2 good teams the past 2 weeks, but with this getting like a little bit easier down the stretch, and if they want to make the playoffs, they've got to fix these things.
So this seems like it could be a kind of a get right game for the Chargers, and more of kind of like just another game for the Eagles. What is your even though Morgan hates when I do this, but what's your prediction for the Chargers and Eagles this Sunday?
Man, see, I normally make my prediction. If we had this podcast tomorrow, I'd be able to. I'm going to be able to like watch the Eagles, like a few games of them tonight and then tomorrow. So, as far as prediction, I don't have one. So I'm probably the only guy that's been on here that has not had a prediction.
It's all good.
Because like I've had a fair evaluation of the Eagles.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good. Trust me. It's perfectly fine.
I don't envy you having to watch back all those games. I'll tell you that right now. It's been a tough season. Okay, so one thing that you will see.
How's your guys' running game been?
Oh, we just don't use
what is that
it.
again? Running game? What is that?
What is the running game? Well, you're going to find out.
What is a running game?
Yeah.
You're going to find out what it is this weekend.
It just feels like, I don't know. So Miles Sanders has just not been getting carries, and inexplicably so. Looked pretty good running the football, and then he got injured when they finally started running the football. It just feels like one of those seasons. And then obviously the next game come out and run all over the Lions. So who knows what's going to happen next game?
We have no idea what to expect.
Yeah, we have no idea. Yeah. But one thing that you will see on film is this linebacking core of the Eagles. Probably the biggest question mark on their team. Just not great in any regard. Switching personnel all over the place. We're seeing new guys now that we thought, TJ Edwards we thought was even going to start and then didn't, and then. Anyways, just all over the place. Seeing some younger guys showing some stuff, but seeing teams really take advantage. The Cowboys threw their tight ends all over us.
Well, it's a good thing that our tight ends haven't been good, because.
So that's what I was going to bring up. That's what I was going to bring up. Is do you think this can be a bounce back game, or are they just not good?
Jared Cook has had his fair share of drops. He's had his opportunities. He's been open, but again, I think the old age is finally starting to catch up to him a little bit. Donald Parham has been underutilized, and that's one guy I've had my eyes on. Again, you have a 6'8" guy on the field. Use him, but he's been like given the issues on the right side of the line, he's been tasked with more blocking responsibilities. Same thing with Steven Anderson, and they just actually activated or made Trey McKitty active for the first game, our 3rd round pick. And it's because, they needed to go with 4 tight ends strictly to kind of mitigate some of that issues on the right side of the line. So we haven't seen much from our tight ends. Cook has had his opportunities, but again, it's either been a drop or it's been a poor throw by Herbert. It just hasn't been firing on all cylinders. And if this was a game like that, they could actually finally break through, then yeah, it would be it, because the tight ends just haven't been there. Again, when they signed Jared Cook this past offseason, I kind of knew what he was going to be. I thought Donald Parham was going to have more production, but he just hasn't been utilized in that role as a guy who could stretch the seam and like a red zone threat, because he's been tasked as a blocker. That just goes to show how bad the protection's been on the right side of the line.
It's kind of rough.
Yeah. we feel for you. I mean, again,
as far as like tackling Austin Eckler in like the open field or something,
exactly.
That's
it's not happening with us.
Yeah. Given
He'll
how shifty of a back he is too, and just like how elusive, that may be difficult. But as far as covering tight ends, you should not have a problem, because Jared Cook his age is definitely showing at times. So
yeah. And then, I mean, again, I'm sure you're gonna watch film and you'll see this as well. But a strength of the Eagles has actually been limiting number 1, number 2 receivers. Mike Williams has not really come out of the blue. We always thought he'd be a pretty good player, but really come on. And then we saw kind of how much his play matters to this team. He's going to go probably against Darius Slay for most of the game, although, he'll move around. He won't always follow. But what do you think is the key for this pass offense against, a pretty good secondary? What has been the change you've seen with Mike Williams? I know you're talking about how he's used in this offense, but what leaps have you seen from him? And I've had Keenan Allen on my fantasy team for so many years. I just pick him up every year. Exactly. But kind of a guy that always comes on late in the season. He's always good, but late in the season he really turns it on. What have you seen from Keenan that maybe this year is different, or what are you expecting going forward so that he can really, take the roof off?
Yeah, I'll start with Mike Williams. Again, he was a guy that was known to just go up and get it. Like, you're just going to, give him a vertical route and he would just go up and high point the ball, come down with it. Now he's been tasked with an expanded route tree. And again, he's not going to be your typical shifty. He's not going to get open in that way, but just given like his physical profile, and just like he is, he has some separation skills to him, and he's been utilized, like I mentioned, in a variety of routes. And that's allowed him to get open. And again, because he's bigger than a lot of these corners, he's been using the slot outside as well. So that has allowed him to win in those situations. And again, given his hands, he's going to probably come down with it. Hasn't done much the past 2 weeks because opposing defenses have done a good job shutting him down, as well as the other issues that have come up. Justin Herbert's just not getting the ball down the field. As far as Keenan Allen, he's been getting open, but when he's been throwing the ball, there's been far often than not, he hasn't come down with those balls. He's been Justin Herbert's safety blanket on third down. We just haven't seen that as much because they haven't been converting in those situations, largely due to drops, but and then also just given defenses have done a good job against the Chargers on third down of pressuring him. So those two are like the again, they are a dynamic duo, especially this season, but they just haven't shown it these past 2 games. And Mike Williams, and if you look at his stat sheet, he hasn't done much in these past 2 games. Keenan Allen's been more productive, which has had people that believe that it's going back to how it was. But again, Mike Williams just hasn't had his opportunities. I think he only had 2 for 19 against the Patriots. I could be mistaken. And then outside of that, they just don't have a true number 3 receiver. Jalen Guyton's been getting more snaps than rookie Josh Palmer. Josh Palmer has been on the field 11 targets, 7 receptions, 89 yards, and a touchdown. He needs to see the field more. I know that he did against the Ravens, where he had 4 targets. He only caught 1 of them, but that was just a bad game all around. I think he needs to see the field more, but I even wrote up an article that they should be a team that's interested in Deshaun Jackson, because I think Deshaun Jackson brings that element that they're missing. And I think that he would be able to help Herbert in that aspect of being able to throw the ball down the field and come down with it. Because again, they had Tyron Johnson last year who kind of served as that, and they also had Jalen Guyton. Jalen Guyton was more productive last season. He's been on the field, but he just hasn't been utilized. They're just missing that downfield specialist, and that's why I'm sure I'm not the only one that has mentioned that, but you've probably seen Deshaun Jackson staying in LA. Chargers should show interest in him. So that's the reason why, because the wide receiver core is missing that one element that would play to Herbert's strengths. So
that'll be a sight for sore eyes to see Deshaun wearing that powder blue. But we are at the hour mark. Gavino, you owe me a prediction at some point, whether it's on Twitter or something.
Yeah, no. I'm gonna next time. Do you guys normally stream before the game?
No, not at all actually.
Okay, well I'll put it on Twitter, and that way you
Perfect.
can retweet it. Yeah,
All right,
perfect.
sounds good. That sounds like a plan. But we appreciate you coming on, man. Appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us about Eagles and Chargers. Should be a fun game, hopefully. On your side, it'll be a fun game. For us, it'll be interesting.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. But have yourself a good night, man. We appreciate you coming on again.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too.
All right, guys. So that was Gavino Borquez of the Chargers Wire talking Eagles versus Chargers with us. It's so funny that he mentioned the Deshaun Jackson article, because when I was looking up, Charger stuff throughout the day today, I saw that pop up, and I'm kind of like, that'd be kind of nice.
It makes a lot of sense, man. It makes a lot of sense.
Damn, imagine they sign up before the game. Yeah, but anyways,
you heard it here first.
That'd be kind of crazy. Breaking news. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we mentioned what needs to happen for the Eagles, win or lose. What needs to happen this Sunday? They gotta show that they're taking 4 steps forward, no steps back. My only concern is going to be my only concern for the next 7 weeks.
I can't even. It's who knows anymore.
For the rest
I think there's like 34 games this season or something. I don't know.
It's be my concern for the rest of the season is going to be Jalen Hurts. I've for some weird reason I've gone into watching college football because of the QB class this season, and I feel like the QB class is a lot. It's very underrated heading into the draft. It's gonna be one of those that's gonna pop up and people are like, oh yeah, I want this guy now. I want this guy.
Right.
But hey, shout out to Jay Fizz who's joining us a little late.
Welcome.
Shout out to Ismael Rodriguez. I have a feeling that we will start turning this around and having the team find themselves fly Eagles fly. Yeah. But yeah, we appreciate you all sticking around with us. What's your
that kind of gave me hope, actually. Like, listen to that. Like, I don't know. Again, I don't have the time to watch every single game of all the Eagles opponents, but from what I saw from the Chargers, some pretty simple fixes. Like, I just thought the Ravens game was a one-off, but it sounds like there's more going on there. It kind of gave me a little bit of hope. I don't think this is a team that the Eagles can beat, but I'd love to see it competitive, something close.
Possible in the NFL, man.
That's true. I think my kind of my grounding moment was when I thought about how good the Chargers are compared to the Raiders. I think the Chargers are just a better team. I know the Raiders are have a lot of surprises and better than everyone thought, but I just think the Chargers are a better team. And so I think it would be closer in score, like maybe like the Bucks game where it's 20 to 20 something in that range. But I think
it'll be close. I don't think it's gonna be a blowout, but
I think it's gonna be garbage time touchdowns.
How well can you mask Jalen Hurts versus trying to keep up with Justin Herbert? Because sorry, like I mentioned to Gavino, it feels like a get right game for them.
Yeah.
So it could be one of those things that the Chargers are shooting out, Keenan Allen's balling out, Mike Williams is balling out, Eckler's running all over the place, and to catch up, you got to rely on good old faithful QB1. And it's I don't know, it sucks. I feel like Hurts has been so exposed this season, and it's one of those things. Weird thing, Ben Simmons, we all know was a good player,
right?
But he lacks the ability to be a great player. He lacks the ability to
or the desire. With Ben Simmons,
he lacks the desire to be better. He lacks the desire to be a great player. Jalen Hurts talks a very big game. We know this. He talks very well for his age. He knows what to say to media. He's very well trained in that regard. but his play just doesn't back up
Right.
the swagger. And I need them to align. I need the balance. Like I need the balance in the damn force right now. And
Yeah.
right now it just seems so off balance. And you have all these attractive options. Matt Corral is a very attractive option for me. Kenny Pickett, he's borderline, but he's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, you have Malik Willis. Then you have the golden child, Russell Wilson.
Right. That's our preference, I think, right? Is that they go get Russell Wilson. That's
definitely my preference. At the end of the day, I already did it in Madden. But
yeah, did it take all 3 first picks?
I had to cheat to get it. But
Okay. True.
Got to game the system some points. But what do you like? Oh, that's actually a really good question by Jay Fizz. Do y'all feel like he's the reason we lost games? Do you want me to take this one first? Or you want to take this first? If you're taking this first, I'm gonna go pour myself a little glass of whiskey before we get into this part.
Oh yeah. I can do that. I can do that if you want, but you go ahead. You make the decision.
All right, no, I'll take first. I'll take first.
All right, cool.
Yes, I do believe Jalen Hurts is a 30% reason we've lost games. The other percent relies on John Gannon and defense. A big chunk of it relies on Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni told us a bold-faced lie that seems to be turning out to be the truth now when you actually look at it. He said he was going to make sure the offense was predicated on the ability of his players. The offense has been predicated on the ability of one player, Jalen Hurts. It's like, it's that, like I said last week, it's that relationship. You're trying to make it work.
Right.
You have that girl, like you guys had that attraction, but there's something missing. This is not connecting. You're really trying to force it to work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not working with Jalen and Nick. And Nick is not going to be the one to leave.
Right.
Jalen has great upside in the right scheme. It's just, it's not here. It doesn't feel like it's here. I don't know if anybody else feels like that in the chat, but, shout out if you do. But it just doesn't feel like Jalen Hurts is going to be a good quarterback here. He can be a really good backup quarterback, but he's not QB1. He's not the franchise out here. And I feel like a lot of the losses have come on his, on his poor decisions.
Mm-hmm.
He's missed people on third down. He's missed people deep down the field. He's missed his number one target. You've missed the guy that they invested in the first round. That's your buddy. Like it just seems like, it's like I said, it's the Ben Simmons effect.
Right.
That's the difference between greatness and where you are. Not missing those reads. Understand, allowing the game to slow down for you opposed to you forcing the issue.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a bit of a cop out, but every loss and every win is going to be about the team itself, and it's hard to put it all on his shoulders. I don't know if there's that play where you can just point out and be like, oh, that's the play where we lost. Partly because it's been a lot of garbage time stats, right? Like Jalen Hurts is also the reason why some of these games are as close as they are. It is late in the clock, but a guy that when all eyes are on him, when it makes for good television, if nothing else, right? He's been able to turn it on. You
can't think of a play like that. You feel like
exactly.
Game, but as you're saying that, I'm seeing the underthrow to Jalen Reagor on the comeback route. I'm seeing the behind throw to Devontae Smith for first down. Like right. Those things like that, those misses are big for me. Like,
right.
Dude, like again, he's not a rookie. Get that out of your head. Like he is a sophomore. He's a second year pro.
Yeah. I think you're making good points too. Is like, there's again, like I don't think you point to one play, but I think like there's plays, especially early in games, that obviously the first 15 plays is great, and that's a big problem too. But I think the Jalen Hurts, based on the scheme itself, is missing a lot. And how can you tell whether that's Jalen Hurts or that's how he's being coached, right? It's we don't know exactly what he's being taught to read first and all that stuff. And I just think that there's a disconnect somewhere there. But what you're talking about is that's, arm strength, mechanics, whatever it is, timing. These are issues, and you can't always coach out all these issues. It's hard to ever, it's like, in soccer, blaming a game on your goalkeeper, like, or in hockey, it's a really tough thing to do. But I think that the match like you're talking about is just a bit strange. It doesn't mean it won't work out, but it's going to take some time. And I just think that there's a lot of growing pains. Aside from that, we don't know if Nick Sirianni can be a head coach in this league, right?
But the issue is
So
like the growing pains, they're not going to go through it together. Like
they
this,
may
this
not.
is going to be the most historical offseason in Eagles franchise history.
You
They
think
have
so?
it has to be. You have 3 first-round picks. You have Russell Wilson clamoring for a trade. Aaron Rodgers not expected back. You have Jalen Hurts to make a decision on. You have these young QBs. You got to make a decision on. You got to figure out who's going to fit your coach. That's the biggest decision of this offseason.
Right.
Who's going to fit Nick Sirianni? Because everybody thought it was going to be Carson. I don't want to hear no rebuttal against that. We all thought it was Carson and Nick. It made sense. They got the kid from Indianapolis to keep Carson here. That to me, that was set in stone. But it's gonna be a big offseason.
Yeah. Let's hope it's Russell Wilson. I can say that much. I feel like that
Russell Wilson. I'm going streaking down the block. I'm saying it right now.
Well, and I feel
this
like that like
this
again,
episode 105, right? I'm going streaking if they trade for Russell Wilson.
Problems. It solves so many problems for you. You have a coaching staff that's just timid and won't take charge. It seems like won't do what they want to do. Russell Wilson comes in. That's a completely different game. You don't have to worry about half of these problems anymore. You give him a better offensive line than he's ever had in Seattle. And then I don't know, the defense. You just use whatever draft picks you got left and just hope for the best.
Yeah,
I mean,
agree.
if we're really hoping on how we drafted defensive players that pan out, we're in trouble regardless. But
and it makes so
that's
much
the
sense.
best course of action.
The NFC West is loaded up with defensive talent right now. They have no offensive line in Seattle. If I'm Russell Wilson, I'm like, yeah, I'm heading this way. I'm not dealing with this if you're not protecting me. Send me to the East Coast. Send me away from these guys. I'm not dealing with all these beatings.
Gotta find a center. But
absolutely.
Yeah.
But really quick, before we wrap up, prediction?
Okay. Yeah. I'm ready for it this time. I think it's gonna be 27-21 Chargers. That's my prediction.
You have the Chargers winning.
Although, to be honest, there's going to be like some weird 2-point conversion that they pick. It's going to be an odd score. So it's not going to be 27-21, but I think it's going to be a 1-touchdown game in the 20s. That's my prediction.
So my prediction is it's in the 20s, but it's a 1-point game. I think for some stupid reason, for some really stupid reason, the Eagles win this 24-22. And nobody's going to be able to explain it. But what's going to happen is the freaking Eagles are going to get us back on that wagon. We're going to ride down that road on Broad Street, feeling all good and happy to see the Eagles win, and they're going to blow it to the Saints. But I think they're going to beat the Chargers.
That's not where I thought I was going to go, Brian. I was feeling hopeful for a bit.
I think they beat the Chargers 24-23. But like I said, it's going to be one of those things that's tugging at your heart where it's like, I don't want to believe in you anymore.
I'm not a fantasy guy, but I just feel like, I do play fantasy, but I'm not going to sit here and say I know anything about fantasy. But it just seems like it's one of those games where like Jared Cook just has 2 touchdowns and 127 yards or something like that. Like just one of these Chargers players.
2 touchdowns, 127 yards.
It's just going to be one of those crazy games, like similar to, was it Dalton Schultz? Like,
I didn't know Hawkinson had 10 freaking catches for 89 yards.
That's what I mean. It's like, Hawkins is a good tight end. Don't get me wrong. But I just feel like it doesn't matter who's playing tight end. We just can't cover them. And, Cook's had good seasons. He is a talented player, just getting old. I just feel like they find a way to exploit this dreadful linebacking core.
Well, let's see, my friend. Let's see.
Should I pick him up and start him? Just to put that confidence in the air.
No, definitely don't do that. I don't know if you face me, but don't do that. But yeah, thank you for everybody tuning in. Make sure you guys click on the link below. Tick pick, better prices, same seats, no fees. You don't have to pay those extra $40, $50 fees just to see your Eagles play. So make sure you guys click on the link below. Also, below is our YouTube channel. Definitely subscribe to that. We're going to get that back up and running soon. It's just a very hectic time in our personal lives, and we're kind of getting adjusted to me and Morgan kind of running things right now. But yeah, shout out to you guys for faithfully listening to us. And if you're listening to the audio version, shout out to you as well. But yeah, until next week, I'm Brian Cameron. He's Morgan Burkett, and this is Flippin' the Birds.
Go Birds.
Yes, sir.